Josh and I, for the past month or so, have been trying our hardest to hunt ghosts. And today, well, let's just say we finally blimmin' did it. Here's how. We picked up all of our belongings, hopped into our moving van thingy, and drove on down to this place, where we figured we could hunt some ghosts. So of course, we plopped back into the van of the supernatural, looking after this ghost chap. I, as usual, grabbed my flashlight, reader, and this wacky spirit box thing. And as we looked outside, we found out we were exploring a blimmin' prison! We strolled in through the back doors, roaming through this domain where previous convicts had supposedly been held. We entered this place and looked under every nook and cranny for suspicious occurrences that could possibly be blamed on the supernatural. But alas, not much was located. I found these huge double doors that were locked, so I thought we needed a key. Turns out we didn't, but of course I didn't know at that time. I simply wasn't pulling the door the right way. We found a new upstairs area to roam and explore, and while roaming upstairs we found the red electrical box. So now we had electricity flowing through the prison, which didn't help all that much, but it was somewhat useful in some aspects. Oh wow, look at those handcuffs! And those Windows 95 computers, dude! This prison is in the blimmin' Stone Age! We discussed our optional objectives, of which one was to take a photo of the ghost with a camera. Which we... Oh goodness, this prison cells! There was no light switch anywhere about. So even with the electricity slapped back on, we couldn't find much. But at least this fancy room with a fancy chair had light, am I right? I had nothing to fear though. The reader had yet to go off. And this prison was so enormous, the ghost could be literal miles away! And its size is truly shown by this little overhang. Like, look at this! It's massive! This is the size of literally one of those house maps. Oh, and guess what? I found the light switch in! Never mind. The power went out. Again. So at this moment in time, we had the idea that the ghost was possibly that little electrical chap. And as we were putting the power back on, we were joking about the exceptional lack of supernatural activity. So as you usually do, I whipped out the ghost version of a telephone and started having a questions and answers segment with the ghost.
Thomas Smith.
Thomas Smith! We've got a questions and answers videos for you. Do you like Among Us? Why are you in prison? How did you die? I think those questions were a little bit too personal for him, gonna be honest. But I think those questions were a little too personal for the ghost's liking, as I ended up being ghosted. We stumbled our way back down the stairs onto the ground floor and found ourselves surrounded by even more prison cells. You know, it's almost like we're in a prison. But then I had a stroke of genius. We were only looking around the prison, not in the prison. What if the ghost was inside one of the prison cells? So that's what we figured we'd do next. After exploring the shower room first, obviously, and using this strategy, we stumbled into an absolutely massive cell block. So we figured we should go and check, you know, maybe every single blimming cell, because yeah, sure, that's a productive use of our time. It's not like the reader would pick it up from this distance. The harshest sentence you can be given is a life sentence. So if a ghost is dead, I think they're free to go from their cells. But what do I know? Though looking at the state of some of these cells, I'd assume most of the supernatural had left the area already. Oh, would you look at that? The power is off! Again! What a blimmin' surprise! So we were convinced that it would be a Ryja ghost. As games prior to this, watch previous videos by the way, the Ryja was the ghost who wouldn't stop messing around with their blimmin' electrical equipment. Oh, and would you look at that? There's another one upstairs! As if we weren't having enough stair shenanigans in the first place. Though, we pretty much figured the ghost was upstairs at this point. And I additionally figured out that the reader could probably pick up supernatural activity outside of the cells, instead of opening each blimmin' individual one.
Wait. Did you hear that?
Oh my goodness, is that really faint voices that you might not pick up unless you have a beastly set of AirPods? Yes it is. We roamed onwards carefully, in dead silence as we tried to listen out for more mysterious noises. We thought the audio might have arrived from downstairs below the prison room. No, we weren't particularly stressed as the reader had yet to yell at us. But despite the ghost noises, we had yet to discover any ghostly activity. There was no ghost excrement about. The reader had been stuck on a solid 1 the entire time, and the only evidence we had was a little bit of noise. So with that, we left. But then, we heard it. We turned off all devices, and we decided we'd need to head back to the truck as soon as we physically could. Josh said he knew the way back, and thank goodness he wasn't lying. And we strolled out, just temporarily, to see... Oh my goodness! That is actually very high blimming activity! Blimey! We properly dodged a bullet, as that looks like it was hunting. Oh, and our sanity was proper low, and we only had 1 pack of sanity pills, which Josh selfishly took, but that's fine. I'll just be insane for the rest of the time. I mean, if you're watching this video in the first place, you're probably already mental. Josh suggested leaving, but I insisted on not doing so. I was either going to figure out which ghost this was, or die. There was to be no in between. So after shuffling through the cameras for a little while, we stormed back in, determined to discover some excuse of evidence as to what kind of ghost it could be. We tried our hardest to stick together though, and despite what I had previously stated, I didn't particularly want to perish at the hands of a ghost. We analysed every room we encountered, every prison cell we passed, but no further noises were heard, no ghost activity detected, and no oomph reading higher than 1. Though the power was off again. Pretty much to be expected at this point though. Oh, and we found a second huge prison cell area, because believe it or not, there's blimming 2 of them! As if the map wasn't big enough already. I instilled the same strategy as before of just shoving my face close to the cells as possible, with the oomph reader desperately clutched between my fingers. We heard a ghost breathing, and then the door was locked. The ghost was hunting. I made the decision to hide in complete darkness until the door was unlocked, which actually somehow worked. Though we found this outside place too, which was, by the way, not where the van was. So, in a sense, we accidentally stumbled upon a brand new area. Yay us! Go us! But the second we went back in, the door was locked again, because the ghost was hunting, yet again. We tried to brave roaming around the place, but then we heard chains. Josh additionally started lagging, as the sound of chains grew ever closer. And while I must have missed it, Josh was now gone. Whether he got killed or disconnected, I'd never know. But I kept on roaming, with a distant sound of chains echoing around my ears. Did you see how close that was? Sorry. Or should I say, did you hear how close that was? With the sound of chains echoing around me, I sprinted out as fast as I could and ran away. I didn't care if I had gotten the ghost wrong, it didn't matter regardless. And as shown by this book, I had little to no evidence at all. So after having a quick read on each type of ghost, I literally just picked YLYL at random. And guess what? It was wrong. What, you thought that game was the one we succeeded? Of course not. It was simply training for this small little campsite here. We grabbed everything we could and then ran out to have ourselves some nice lovely campfire stories. Frida firmly grasped and personal space 100% invaded. Oh yeah, and just casually walk past a human bone, why don't you? I literally didn't even acknowledge it. What I did acknowledge was this cooking area. Do any of y'all like beans? Oh, and look at this. Wow, look, some nice little carnival games. Can you believe that the one game we didn't take seriously was the one that we blimming won? And I was completely atrocious at these games. So I hung my head in shame and departed. Not in the death way though. Though I have no clue what the ghost was doing this entire time. I mean, look at these graphs. Surely something must have happened. But it's due to these spikes only occurring when we enter the van. I figured the ghost was pretty much right at the entrance. Oh, look at that. I'm a genius. I was right. So I strolled back victorious as our camera tech was playing up. Apparently, the camera can't vlog our experiences properly. And using all of these facts, we had determined that it would be one of these 3. But I wasn't leaving it down to chance like back in the prison. I roamed out once again, and would you look at that? Instant 5! With this information, I rushed back to the van as fast as I could. So we clarified with the EMF 5 piece of evidence, but what else could we determine? Well, you wouldn't believe this, but I had another ingenious idea. What if I talked to the ghost? It's never worked in the past, but it might work now. There's no harm in trying.
It's Christopher Clark.
Okay, keep me updated on how activities. Christopher Clark!
Alright.
What do you do here?
Okay, the activity's Moment.
Where are you?
It's going up again, it's back to 3. Oh, 5. It's going up to 5 now.
I don't know what it said, but it said something, right? We have the last piece of evidence required. We determined it was the twins, and guess what? Well, you already know what happens. It was correct! Finally, Josh and I had finally been able to deduce the ghost correctly as the world's worst ghost hunters. Oh, and what did the ghost say? It undoubtedly said subscribe, which is something you should totally do right now! Have a good one, chaps!